Welcome to the Ask Rev Lee show. We're so happy and delighted that you could join us, and we thank you for doing so.
Again, let me say, welcome to the Ask Reverend Lee Gospel Program. This is a religious forum program designed to help others get closer to God. Our primary aim is to tell the story of Jesus the Christ of Nazareth. And do we have an interesting, exciting, and attractive program planned for you today? As usual, we're going to have our scripture, then we'll have prayer, and we will go into a discussion of today's question and answer. By way of background, this is part 3 of a 3-part series on the gospel of Jesus Christ. Part 1, we talked about God's post-resurrection plan of salvation, redemption and salvation, or salvation. And in part 2, we talked about the Great Commission mandate. The Great Commission is found in Matthew 28, 18 through 20, and Luke 16, 15, 16, Mark 16, 15, 16, but the implementation, how are we going to carry out this Great Commission? What's its scope, the duties and responsibility? That's found in Acts 18, 8 and 9. And it behooves you to take a look at Acts chapter 18, verses 8 and 9 to see what parameters God has set up for the church to do. He didn't give the church everything in the world to do. He gave us a little narrow, specific area of responsibility, and that's in Acts chapter 18, verses 8 and 9. And now for this part 3, we're going to go into comparative religions. And in this study of comparative religions, we're going to revive. We're going to revive Jesus Christ. There's a caption underneath underneath there says, Reviving Jesus. That's what we're going to do in this 1-hour segment. The first 2 segments were 30-minute segments. But in this 1-hour segment, we're going to be about comparative religions. We're going to revive Jesus from his pre-creation existence until the present time, 27th day of April 2009. We're going to revive Jesus. We have an interesting sub-theme. One of the things that Jesus tried to convey to the Jewish people and to the multitude during his sojourn here on earth was this. And I'm paraphrasing. He says, I am not who they say and think that I am. Now, that's the theme of Jesus, his earthly ministry. And his statement was, I am not who they say and think that I am. And one of his last words on the cross was, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And another one was, it is finished. And Father, into thine hand I commend my spirit. And Luke 22:37 says that the things concerning Jesus of Nazareth had an end. So in reviving Jesus, we're going to go back to his pre-creation existence to the present time. And you know what? We're going to skip a discussion of the entire Old Testament except for the existence of God and the birth of the nation of Israel. Because when you go back to Jesus' pre-creation existence, you will discover that he set the Old Testament from creation, from Genesis 1:1 to Malachi, he set it in motion. And then in Matthew, he shows up. And today, we're going to have a scripture lesson from Matthew chapter 11, verse 12 and 13, and John 2:19. Matthew chapter 11, verse 12 and 13, and John 2:19. John the Baptist, for background, John the Baptist was a forerunner of Jesus the Christ or the Messiah. He came as a forerunner. You find that in Luke chapter 1. He was a forerunner. And also the Gospel of John. And in Matthew's chapter 11, John is in prison. I mentioned this in one of the early episodes. John is in prison, and he's concerned whether or not Jesus of Nazareth is the Messiah. So he sends his disciples to ask Jesus, "Are you the one? Art thou he that should come? Or do we look for another?" Jesus answered and said unto them, John's disciples, "Go and show John again those things which you do hear and see. The blind receive their sight, and the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear, the dead are raised up, and the poor have the gospel preached to them, and blessed, happy is he whosoever shall not be offended in me by my claim." Now that's the background of Matthew chapter 11, verses 12 and 13. Because after John's disciples went left, Jesus explained the significance of John the Baptist to his disciples. And that's what I'm reading in Matthew chapter 11, verses 12 and 13. Jesus is saying, well, for continuity, let me read it. Let me read 7 through 13. "And as they departed, Jesus began to say unto the multitude concerning John, What went ye out into the wilderness to see? A reed shaken in the wind? But what went ye out for to see? A man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they that wear soft clothing are in kings' houses. But what went ye out for to see? A prophet? Yea, I say unto you, and more than a prophet. For this is he of whom it is written in Malachi 3:1, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare the way before thee.